All right, so we're live. For anybody who doesn't end up watching this, we just did a quick recap before we started. We're going to pick up with the group sort of sitting on the shoreline of this massive river. It is a nice evening. You can feel rain in the air, but at a distance. Um, it's a different type of feeling than maybe most of you are used to. For your own reasons, whether it's you spent most of your time underground and near a forge, or you've spent most of your time in a city in the comforts of what that has to offer. A rainstorm in a tightly packed, populated city feels very different than a rainstorm out in sort of the open wilderness does. And so this may be a pretty foreign feeling to you because you can feel there's a denseness to the air. There's a weight to the breeze, but it's not oppressive. In fact, it's kind of invigorating. It's this very sort of sense of renewal. But you can see that, and off in the distance, in the same direction that I think it was Wolfram who pointed out the buildings in the distance. They are built into cliff face. You can see lightning cracking across the sky. There are still hints of pink and amber above those mountains as the sun has started to dip down, but even behind them now. And it's for such a massive river, there's no rushing to it, right? It moves rapidly because it's so wide. You don't really hear it as you would maybe a more narrow river that was rushing past rock. And so it's fairly quiet. There is the occasional sort of somewhere between a neigh and a moo, or maybe even a bleat. These sounds of creatures that are around you, but none of them have an aggressive sound to them. As you look along the coastline, more southerly rather, you see the lights of the houses from these settlers start to illuminate. There are fires outside, perhaps for cooking or for standing watch. Tiny dots of light, maybe they're torches or lanterns, can be seen as they come on. There doesn't seem any moving down that direction, but that is the direction of all the homesteaders. It's the same direction that the halflings that you encountered earlier. It's the direction that they moved off. They told you that where they are bedded down and camped is past these homesteaders. And as you
That's
watch
on
in
this side of the river, right?
Yeah, that's on this side of the river. Yes.
Right.
As you watch and these lights sort of come on, you can see maybe what's even the beginning of a small town. The way these homesteaders have sort of laid it out, it looks like outlying the area there are their individual farms or fields, and then towards the center point, if you were to draw connecting roads from all of these farms, is a small cluster of buildings that seems to be a little more brightly illuminated. You're not sure what's there, and it doesn't. It's nothing too fantastic. You're pretty sure because you know from what you were told, both on this side of the gate and the other, that people still come to Postgate for all their needs, except for apparently maybe some soap, as Wolfram found out and sold to one of the halflings. Soap was not one of the things they necessarily brought a lot of through with them. But as you sit here and sort of take this in, there is a rustling that comes from behind you from the path that led down from the plateau where Postgate is. And there is a gentleman who he's well dressed, but well dressed in a sort of scholarly way. I'll throw a picture of him here real quick. his hand is slightly aglow. He holds it kind of above and out in front of him, as one might hold a lantern. And his other hand, he has gripped as though he's holding something, and just past him, you can see a small cart, maybe a large wheelbarrow or a small cart. And there are two spectral greenish blue hands, one on each of the handles of this wheelbarrow. And as he walks, these spectral hands pull this cart along behind him. And he gets up to 60 feet so that the firelight begins to touch him. And he calls out, "Hello there."
Can we just do a bit of a character reintroduction and stuff like that before
Please,
we
let's
jump
do
into
that.
that?
So as this guy enters, you can see that he is probably 6'4", very good looking, dark brown hair, these sort of icy blue eyes, and he holds himself in this similar manner that KO does, right? Not that I'm a bookworm type of universe arcanum that you're used to inside the city, right? These sort of scrawny, sedentary, bookish people who move around buying quills and pots of ink and scurrying back to the three towers inside of Core. He's a very well put together young man, and so he looks into the camp, and I guess we'll start with you, Wolf.
Okay, so Wolfram, he's trying to take all this in. He's getting kind of pissed off. This is the second time in like less than a week or so that people of so-called importance and secrecy want him to do stuff on the down low that other people would give him shit for, and he's feeling like railroaded, within the game. Like he's using kind of control, and he prefers his freedom. So one thing he's considering is, I'm on this side now. Harder for me to get me. I might just try and find a place to, settle down and get back to my old ways, because I don't really want to be a part of this. But for the moment, at least, I don't have much choice but to go along. I'm going to keep all that to myself for the moment. I am going to comment to the others that this near settlement, the settlement on our side, where we can see, it seems they've gotten far more done at that settlement than at Postgate.
Well, I guess maybe there's not as much bureaucracy there. I don't know. That usually bureaucracy usually slows things up quite a bit. No offense.
Well, true, this one thinks that it may be that necessity drives. What we have observed thus far appears to be more in the line of personal survival, which the previous settlement has already achieved. So though they have done more, it's achieved no more than what has actually been at the main camp.
Perhaps, but I must say that settlement looks more welcoming, more inviting, more familiar than Postgate, which is a little more than a barracks.
Well, we can see about relocating when we get back, assuming we survive.
If we get back, if we go back.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Is this wizard type within hearing range of us yet, or?
I mean, if he wanted to hear you at this point, he could, but he seems to have stopped just shy of the 60 feet of your campfire, and he called out once, and then has heard sort of mumbled voice. I don't imagine you're screaming.
No.
And he appears to be standing there. Like I said, his fist is going, but he's appears to be standing there waiting for some sort of invitation to the camp.
Oh yeah, so I'll stand up and say, "Come on over, we don't bite."
As he approaches, I'm going to give him the kind of smile that a butler would give his master when that butler doesn't think much of his master.
Okay.
By the way, I have my armor is in I have my armor off, and it's kind of in a bundle on the ground that I've been sitting on for a chair, and my cephalopod is sort of sitting on my shoulder, holding my shield over my head to cover, to block the rain. So the rain's kind of like running off the sides of the shield above me.
Well, it's only barely started to mist here, but nonetheless, you do occasionally hear the little drip, drip, tink, tink as rain patters down onto your armor below you. But he comes into the full light of the campfire, and he pauses for a moment as he takes you all in, and I'm sorry. I'm Junik Iopi, but I suppose you knew that.
Sure.
We
Have
were
a seat.
expecting you.
Would you like something warm to drink? It's a dismal night out.
Oh, it's not too bad. It almost always rains here.
It's getting more dismal.
Yeah.
Sheena mentioned to me, not mentioned, she had told me, informed me that that you were willing to help. I suppose
It is not our assistance I'm questioning so much. I don't mind it. It is the secrecy. Is it really necessary?
You can see that he has a bit of a troubled look on his face. I don't know that it is, but I don't know that it's not. I'm not trying to be overtly vague.
Hey, listen, what my friend is trying to say is we're kind of new around here, and we don't know the politics. And before we step in anyone else's shit, we'd really like to know where we're standing, if you know what I'm saying.
No, I understand. I suppose that politics is the crux of it, after all. Whether it's political or religious politics, or you can see the light around his hand kind of flicker out as he is now in the campfire light, or arcane politics. Nonetheless, politics. The reason, I suppose, for the secrecy is, simply put, we are not sure who is working for who. But you do come with a prestigious recommendation from Chaos Hanny. And so we have every reason and need to believe that you're not working for anyone at the moment.
It's fine. It's just, it's not in my nature to be deceptive or secretive.
I don't. My character doesn't laugh. I do though.
I understand it. It wasn't in mine either, and yet for these last few years, I've been hiding almost everything.
I just kind of shake my head I look over at Wolfram. See, this is exactly what I'm talking about. This is why nothing gets done. Well, I'm not blaming
sure.
you. Listen, I'm not blaming you, kid. I just it's just frustrating, you know.
No. In 15, 20 years, we should have made much more progress than. And he waves his hand behind him towards Skate than this.
Yeah,
I'm sure any extra burdens placed upon us to get this task done will be compensated.
I would imagine so. I'm not sure how I would define extra burdens. The whole thing is a burden, I suppose. You are, in fact, more or less traveling unknown land in an unknown world to an unknown place for unknown reasons.
Yeah, it's just we were asked not to go back to the camp and not to speak to certain people about certain events.
Right. I understand. You'll have to forgive me. I'm rather new to this. Is this some sort of extortion?
No. I'm sure the IOPs are very generous and will compensate us for it. Tell us what it is you need done. Some specifics. We are to locate a second gate. Where should we begin?
I think you friend may have wrong of this. My family nor I are hiring you. That's perhaps this is a mistake. Maybe Sheena was wrong.
We were asked to seek out a second gate. Is that
yes? But it wasn't. I see. You're more like them. Nothing wrong with that,
understand.
I suppose.
Hold on there, buddy. Listen.
No. I meant nothing by that. I'm not.
But see, you did though. No, I know what you're saying. You're saying that you that we're just like, you know, your tools to use and that we're not worth paying for. There's a word for that. I'm trying to think of what it is. It's
I'm grinning and nodding as you say this.
I think it starts with an S. What is it? It eludes me in a moment. But I tell you what, we'll go on this little joy, you know, this little trip here. We'll seek out this gate for you. You don't have to pay us or anything like that. But if we find anything really interesting out there, we're gonna keep it. Are we clear on that?
What my friend here is saying is that your needs to get this done are not our needs. So if we are to undertake this task, and it's not for money, it is for patriotism. I sort of shrug at him.
I completely understand, and
I mean, you wouldn't begrudge someone making a living, right?
It's
you asked
understandable. Understandable. I mean, I meant offense, and I hope I didn't waste your time. You gentlemen have a fine evening, and I'll tell Sheena she was wrong. Thank you. Your stuff's in the wagon. Return to camp whenever you like.
So you do not wish us to?
No, I wish you would, but I can't line your pockets. And if that's the only reason you came, then now I'm not so sure that you aren't already working for someone, even if it's just yourself.
Perhaps you could explain to us why it is you need this done, why it is important.
I don't need this done. We need this done, all of us.
And why is that?
Please explain.
When the gate opened and people came through, came through with this desire to explore and perhaps to understand, right? We didn't know where the gate had come from or who had constructed it or why. And here we are 2 decades later, and we still have those same questions. And as the time has passed, fewer and fewer people who strive for those answers have come through, and more people who are more concerned about lining their pockets and claiming land resources have come through. And so now it's no longer about the whys or the hows. It's about what can I get from it, what can I sell from here, what can I take back with me. And I don't begrudge you if that is why you came, then you are entitled to it, and there is nothing wrong with that. But I am in no position to offer you any fortune. All I can say is that what we find out there may answer questions to what lies back in core. It may answer questions as to why all of a sudden, and then his voice kind of gets this sort of eerie, quiet tone to it. Why the shadow serpents are rising.
Now you see, that is an answer. That is a legitimate reason why. There was
And
a
I would
potential
have
threat out
offered
there.
that to you. I would have offered that. I would have answered any questions you have, but your just past your greeting was a request for money, and I don't have it.
For reasonable payment is what he was asking for.
I was looking for a purpose to our goals too. If we are to accomplish something, surely knowing why helps.
So he sits down on a piece of stone out here on the shoreline. Purpose is a strange thing.
Oh, you have given a fair one.
Perhaps the second gate, when I stumbled. Let me start over. There is a low barge sunk just in the river there. It's mine. Several years ago, two or three, had begun trips across the river. You see, it's not just an unwillingness. It's a fear that keeps everyone here. There's something infectious about Postgate. Something that dulls the need to ask why. Something that turns a man's mind more to gold and land than it does answers. And I think I might have been the first to break away from that. And I'm not patting myself on the back or asking for any commendation, but it is part of why we turn to you. In addition to the recommendation that we turn to you for needs from KO, there's the idea that you're new. None of you have been here before. The lackluster hasn't had a chance to seep into your bones and minds yet.
So, you see, we seek the same thing, really. We both seek to survive. You wish knowledge of this as it could be a potential threat, and that seems a justified reason. And us, we are not used to this side. We are used to living in a world where coin and valuables allows one to live and enjoy life. So, and ultimately survive. So you see, we seek the same thing, really.
And I don't mean to say there's not coin to be had. I'd be foolish to think that there wasn't some sense in bringing back something merchantable, marketable, profitable.
Well, I think we understand. You need information on this gate, and you wish us to seek it for you. Tell us what you can, and we will attempt this task.
across the river, uh, in very large forest, perhaps a day's journey in a straight line from here, and he kind of holds his hand out in the darkness, gesturing across the water. There are ruins of a village, perhaps. I've never seen inhabitants or anyone like that, and I haven't had a chance to make a proper study to determine how old or anything like that. But I was there. I had made camp one night, and I woke in some pitched, fevered dream, I think. I must have stumbled around in these woods for hours, a night, a day. And I came across this second gate, a massive glade, a cool freshwater pool there, but two smaller trees bent in a he holds his hand like in a U shape and then turns it upside down to make it an arch like this, and into them runes, I'm sure of it, carved in well, I can tell you it wasn't Korish or common trade or dwarvish, or and he goes on to list like 9 languages, apparently all of which he can at least read. It's similar in structure to Draconic, but not the same. It has hints of Elvish, but I was able to determine that it was a gate. What I don't know is, does that gate go back to Kor? Does it go back to our world? And if it does, what if it goes somewhere important? What if that gate opens up into the heart of Alphania? Or worse, into the Southern Kingdoms? And now, instead of a month ride, they simply march through a gate, take a boat across a river, and through another gate, and now they're in the heart of Kor? I worry.
You suspect this gate is being used to facilitate an invasion?
I don't, not now, no. I think it could be. I worry that it could be. The state of affairs in Kor with the death of the Althanian, I know you're well aware of. The rumors of the serpents in the church, or the temperament of my father and the others like him, I worry. And then the malaise, what's a time for the antithesis of wanderlust? Syntism? That infects the very stonework that we brought here? Something is wrong. And the village itself. Who built it? When did they build it? Are they still here? Need we worry about them? Have we gone so far to stumble into something we're not meant to be? And these are the questions that keep me up. And this is what I hope that maybe you can shine some light into. And gods be damned, if I have to find a way to pay you, I will. But
very well. I'm going to look around at my companions. We shall seek out these ruins, learn what we can of this gate.
And look, it's not about the money, but to be perfectly honest,
Wolfram dies.
you're right.
Yeah, I'm just gonna whisper to. It is about the money.
But if you really want to pay us in something, how about just raw honesty? We could use some of that here.
Okay.
I mean, from you. I know you can't promise for anyone else, but from you, if you can give us honesty, at least most of us will be willing to go pretty far for you, because that's a currency that I can get behind.
Honestly, I don't know what we're up against. I don't know what we'll find. I don't know what to tell you the answers are you're looking for. I can tell you I believe that there are at least one or two other groups looking for the same answers. I don't think they've made it to the other side yet. I can tell you that I believe the only people that you can trust on this side are yourselves. Perhaps not even me, to be honest.
Yeah.
A smiling nod.
You're
What say you others? Are you in agreement? We shall do this then.
I nod. Yeah.
Yeah, I've just been thinking, if there's a second gate, would that remove or devalue the importance of this initial gate as well?
It could, or perhaps it turns it from being a curiosity to a tactful or
Does a
strategic
second door
point.
make the first door not useful? Why wouldn't they both be? It sounds, by what our new friend here is saying, that he fears that not only an invasion, but perhaps some sort of magical plague virus is passing through and sapping the will of those in Postgate in the area. We shall find out, and we shall also have to be on the lookout not to succumb to this virus. Our newness may benefit us there.
Mm.
He frowns heavily. I don't think it's a sickness, or I honestly think someone from Core has sabotaged Postgate. I think that there is something in the very fiber of the buildings that over time makes us reluctant to explore. And I don't know why.
Perhaps there is where the investigation should occur.
Well, if I were to ask you to look into it, we would run the risk that you would, as you said, succumb to this infection. But if I can get you out of here looking for other answers, and if I become sedentary and not willing to explore outside these walls, at least my query lies inside the walls.
Perhaps you should
Or-
note your thoughts now before your mind changes, in case it does.
You see his eyes like perk up, and he snaps his fingers. Which of the four of you happens to be wearing a ring?
I'm wearing a non-magical ring.
Perfect. He like lunges towards you rather quickly.
I move into like a counter dance position.
Right. So and if you're watching it on the big screen, you move to sort of a counter dance position, and he moves in and kind of grabs your hand as though he was actually going to dance with you. Right. It's sort of that artistic embrace rather than a combative embrace.
Yeah, Wolfram seeing this guy is a little bit of a conspiracy nut, so he's just going to go with it.
And as he does, he grabs your ring on your finger. He kind of pins it like this. And you can see that he has a series of arcane runes that are drawn on the sleeve of his gown. And they begin to illuminate in that sort of same green color that was on his fist. as he starts speaking in, if any of you are arcane casters, you recognize it as an arcane language, but it's Draconic. That's what he's speaking in. And so it comes out in these very sort of harsh, clipped tones that one might mistake for Orcish. But the words are much longer, right? Orcish tends to be like very 1 and 2 syllable words. Draconic tends to be like 42 syllables, all strung into like this one sentence, one word.
Chinese versus Japanese.
And so he finished casting, and your ring glows green, and you can see a rune get etched into the top of it.
I'm going to like hold it up and show it to the others.
It's only temporary. I'm sorry I couldn't do, but I should have thought of this to begin with, and I could have been more
What
prepared.
did you do to it?
You will have 4 opportunities that you'll be able to message me. Short amounts, a sentence, maybe 2, but I should be able to hear you, no matter what distance you've traveled, as long as you remain here. And he kind of gestures very largely, like here. It wouldn't work if you were in core.
I think I understand. So, this sunken barge, we can use it to cross the river? There seem to be creatures in there.
Don't bleed in the water. Try to splash too much. And I wouldn't go swimming, and you should be fine.
Oh, I suppose we shall leave in the morning then.
Early, if possible.
First light, yes.
You see he looks to the west, and is like, oh, you probably have 3 or 5 hours before sunrise. And for any of you who have any sort of
I mean,
wilderness...
sunrise or sunset?
Right, exactly. He turns and he's like, oh, yes. So I'm still trying to... You can't learn everything from a book.
Okay. Theory cementing.
You're in the wagon here.
Thank you.
No. Thank you.
So, will you head back to Postgate, or is your intention to remain here?
I will. If you have questions for me, I'll remain here, but it would deny some sleep. Otherwise, I'll head back to Postgate and attempt to root out this infection, as you've termed it.
How far do you've been to this village before? How far a journey is it there?
Once you're across the river, a day-ish.
And just due west then?
So again, he kind of just points. West, northwest. He says, unsure. He points.
Perhaps there are signs we can look for to know we are getting closer to this
There
village.
is remnants of a road. Cobbled, but a road. Once you've found that, if you stick to it, you're half a day.
Is any of you skilled as an artist? I have no such skills to speak of.
I do some design work, so I'm pretty fair. What do you need?
Well, I'm thinking if we find this gate, that a good, accurate drawing of it might be useful. There may be writings or etchings on the runes that We could make
I
a
might be able
copy
to
of it
make-
and bring back here for examination.
I might be able to do one better. Actually, I can make maybe a small model of it.
Oh well.
A
I can
small
think
scale
of nothing.
model.
I can think of nothing else to ask Mr. Iobi here.
No, I think we're as good as we're going to get at this point.
This one has one question. This
He turns to you.
this mesma, this lack of drive that you speak of is with the homesteaders, as I indicate towards the where the thing is. Is it prevalent there as well? Is there seem to be a limit by exposure to proximity to the gate?
There doesn't seem to be. Those who have hung around Postgate, as it were, have needed more prodding or goading from those that they came through with to carry on. But you should see they have the beginnings of a village, and they've been here 2-3 years at most. And in 20, he kind of turns back towards the plateau and gestures up again. We have this.
Butkus.
Funny, we were just commenting on it before you got here.
Now, the village is still it's a work in progress. Most of the buildings are mixtures of mud and stone. And he kind of he just makes a sweeping gesture, and you can kind of think back. There's not a lot of trees on this side at all. So it's different than what you might be used to. But once
within the lights of that, and especially since you seem to have been observant of it, is their drive decreasing? Did they accomplish more in the first 6 months than they did in the last 6 months? Have they stopped trying?
I don't think so. No, maybe. The church there was the last large building constructed. A few cartloads of stone were brought from Kor, from the Badlands themselves.
Mind you, new stock, untainted stock, if you will, comes across every 6 to 9 months when the portal reappears in Kor. So.
Sometimes homesteaders do, but the workings of Postgate, most of us are on a rotation. Here for 9 months, a year, 6 months. Sheena is in her 6th month, but Chap Humble, for example, is in his 8th year here. Some of us, but we rotate. The homesteaders, if that's what you were referring to, I mean, they come as they get permission.
This one has had experience in dealing with those that unfortunately have been ignored or referred to as lower, and this one does not ever noted a lack of attempt to improve, though often squashed by those above them. But from generation to generation, or even within the same individual, there seems to be a drive among those to pick themselves up and continue forward as best they can against the oppression. If this lack of drive is the symptom that you worry about, are you seeing it even in those further from the actual gate of Postgate?
If I understand you correctly, and I may not, you're implying that those of a lower caste, and I mean no offense, such as yourself, would have more drive than those of a higher station like my father.
For those of a higher station, the status quo is what they seek. It keeps them above. For those below, the climb is what they seek.
I suppose, but on this side, he turns to you, DBJ.
Mhm.
You're a businessman. I was told your father is quite successful. Were he to be here, would he not have already set about taming some of these animals, or securing hides, or wood, or there is a drive that comes from being in a higher position, because those who are born into it or come by it strictly through wealth are never satisfied. But more, what I've noted is the longer someone stays in Postgate, the less willingness they have to venture forth.
All right, quick question, Steve.
Yeah.
When you say Postgate, you're referring to the barracks fort, not to the planet or plane or
Correct.
whatever the heck we
Yeah,
are.
every time he says Postgate, he's referring to the actual barracks.
Yeah.
From
Okay.
what you can tell, no one really has a good name for this place. Every time he's would have said the Earth, instead he kind of just goes and gestures widely.
Then the source of this charm, this illness, this disease seems to this one as to being linked to either the site at which construction was begun, or possibly to the gate itself, as those that have moved away still seek to improve their lot, whether that drive be for money, or that drive be for land, or that drive be for dare I say freedom.
No,
Yes, but it is possible that Postgate is merely the target and not the source of the problem. It could be that other forces, either from core side or this side, or perhaps beyond that new gate, seek to retard the progress of Postgate for reasons we do not yet know. It
right.
might not be Postgate that is the problem. It may be the victim.
I don't know. All of these are. You were all very astute in your observations, but I could not pinpoint. Is it the gate? Is it the settlement? Is it where we settled? Is it this world? Or as your friend indicated, is there a third party at work? Is someone
This is why
attempting
we're
to
being
slow the
tasked.
expansion through Postgate?
To find answers.
Yeah, then this one makes a suggestion to you post our departure, as it seems that the issue is Postgate and the source is unknown. Eliminating possibilities leaves an answer, no matter how improbable that answer may be. Eliminate the possibility of the source being the location, of the source being the gate, and begin on core side where they are not affected. Reach to those that you know have similar worries as you to proceed investigating the gate further.
Right. No, I
As you
I
say, you
understand.
have rotations. Bring those over and rotate them out quickly as they investigate the location, the actual site of Postgate, and see if
Regard-
your answers are not
regardless
there. This is
regardless
not.
of the source, we do know that those who spend time in Postgate are affected. It is more sensible that we not be in Postgate while we investigate.
This one agrees. This one has no issue with proceeding with the investigation portion laid to our feet.
No,
This one is simply investing in and suggesting possible other approaches as we do ours.
So, my half-elven friend, I understand, and the thought has been my own. But again, I run into the issue. We run into the issue. Who do I ask? That's problem number one. Number two, you are the newest people to come through, and I already find myself having to charge you with some expedition into the unknown. I can't tap you twice for the same resource. You must go there. You can't stay here. I myself already am aware I'm affected by it. Sheena as well. I can't ask an entire settlement to pick up and move away from where they are. There's no fortification elsewhere. The houses in the homestead are not all Korish property. I can't
think
house
Durag-
116 people there.
We can assume that whatever he can do in Postgate is being done.
More
Well,
will
if
be
you
done.
if you want to think of something place to start, maybe see who designed Postgate,
I can look into that.
who made it, who came up with the plan for it. As could even be the very shape of the buildings. Those
Perhaps it wasn't always like this, but I'll look into it.
That is all this one was suggesting. This can be taken that this one is committed to the task you have sent and for the reasons you have said. What the others do, I know what this one wishes, but makes no difference to this one's decision. I shall cross the river.
And I appreciate that. Well, if you have no more questions, I'll be returning back to Postgate.
I'm just going to eat heartily on the supplies we have while we're still around a relatively comfortable campfire. Who knows what we're going to find the next night?
fair point.
To you, then, sir, good voyage.
And good luck. I hope you're still you when we get back.
I hold up the ring.
too.
We'll contact you if we find anything of importance.
If at any point how should I say this?
With the
Honestly.
honesty as the coin was suggested.
No. If something foul is at play in Postgate, if during our 4 missives, as they were, I do my middle name is Bartholomew. If at any point in the missives I do not respond as Bartholomew, know the communication does not come from me.
Oh,
Interesting. I'm gonna grin at that, despite myself. It's really like the first interesting part he's heard of this whole thing for Wolfram.
And so at this point, he waves his other hand, and the two ethereal hands, sort of spectral hands, kind of just drop the arrow, and it kodumped there. And he starts walking out of the fire, and as he does, his hand flares up, and he again holds out in front of him like a torch, and he begins his trek back to Postgate.
that's a neat trick.
When he gets far away enough, I kind of like give Wolfram a stern look. I'm like, why did you encourage that guy? He's a nut. There's
So I grin at him. I grin at him broadly. His quest. I understand his quest. He is a curious fellow, but his quest is not my quest. However, there may be things of wealth, things of rarity in this village, these ruins. Such items might be unique back in Core and worth quite a great deal. I do not know what your quests are. Mine is to be wealthy enough to live a life of luxury, as I feel I deserve.
This one does not suggest that our departed friend is in the same realm of sanity as we are, but even from the mouth of fools and babes, wisdom comes. There may be.
There may well be something to all this. This might indeed be a threat to Postgate.
Then this
that doesn't make me care anymore. I am not here for glory or
then care
that
then care for this. The existence of Postgate allows you return to your place of luxury.
Oh yes. I wish Postgate no ill will. It's not
go past that.
Oh, I will do this quest. I will do as Jopie asks, Junik asks. I just will do it for my own reasons.
As will we all.
Okay. And so with that, we kind of, pan out and watch the fire die into embers as you guys bed down wherever it is that you bed down out here next to the corpse of this gigantic beast.
Tonight, I assume we're gonna probably take watches or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Well, I don't know.
We're in a strange land. But I'll take the first watch since I'm kind of too antsy to sleep yet. And although we don't have too many hours, so maybe we might as well just not worry about it too much. But I want to cast. I have a. Say I use a. I'll use my dagger. I just it's like a regular just knife dagger that I have for utility, and I'm going to cast continual flame on it. And then I'll just at once it's cast, I'll just I'll use it for light, and then I'll just put it back in its sheath when not in use. It'll continue to burn, but it doesn't give off any heat or consume oxygen or anything like that. So.
Okay. Anything else that anyone wants to?
I gotta write that off.
Not till we're ready to leave. No.
Yeah. Then I'll just try and get some sleep.
So the only thing of note that happens, with as short as the rest you guys are gonna get, you're gonna basically just get, like the actual 8 hours that you would need to reset spells and such.
Mhm.
So if you imagine that maybe you do a couple of just 2-hour watches, right?
Yeah.
So in that third watch, maybe it's DBJ who happens to be up and about. Another one of those large winged creatures flies out towards the mountains, the ones where that building is in the distance. And either it is closer than you would be comfortable with, or it is massive in size as it crosses in front of this very full moon, and you get this winged shape that dwarfs this very large building. But you see, it kind of the way that a cat or a dog sort of stretches when it first wakes up from a nap, this thing kind of flies up, and in that backlit moon, kind of does the same thing. You can see almost like these fingertips extend for the tips of its wings as it just sort of flexes and flutters for a moment. This long, thick, club-like rather than slender tail behind it kind of waves, and then you see these two tentacle-y things kind of drop from where shoulders were out in front of it, and they too kind of undulate for a moment before pulling back up towards it, and then it flies off over the mountains, and you kind of lose it. There's never a sound. It almost looks like this thing danced up there for a moment before it went off on its way. That being said, all of you wake up in the morning. You're not dead. Congratulations. There is a low embery fire going. So if you wanted to warm up some meat or a cup of tea or whatever the case was, you could do so. All of the grass, the sand, the carcass of this beast are all slick as it has continued to sort of mist throughout the evening. You wake up, your hair is sort of matted down from the water, but it's not that sort of water that seeps into your bones, right? It's annoying, not uncomfortable.
Right. Oh, by the way, the previous night, before I went to bed, I'll offer, if anyone would like a continual flame spell cast on an item, for to have ready light indefinitely. Just remember, you can't snuff it out, but you can cover it. Sheath it. Yeah, basically, yeah. So, if you light something, it'll always get burn like fire. So. I can do 2 more, and then I'm out for the duration. It's an expensive spell.
I might want to just sneak at some point. I will turn you down. I can do it anyway, short term.
Yeah, and then we can do it later too if necessary. But I mean,
well, I'm just saying I give the 2 to the other guys. Is what kind of what.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay, yeah. If either of you want a continually burning object of some kind, it can be anything. Your hand if you want, but I wouldn't recommend it.
Yeah, you don't have to constantly keep shoving your hand down your pants to not draw attention. I tried that in a restaurant once. It does the exact opposite.
I know, right? Jeez.
Here I am sitting in line for the salad bar. The only one to see my hand, so I just the looks you get. All right, so in the morning, it takes you guys, after you're up and kind of have your wits about you.
Yep.
You do see some of those. Let me grab the picture for them. Those really large mountain gazelle-looking things.
Oh,
Water llamas.
No, these are the other ones.
No, the plains animal ones.
Yeah, these are the big ones.
Yeah, these are the massive ones. So we'll go to here and share these guys. So you do see a couple of those, maybe 300-400 yards up the beach. There's like 6 of them. They're drinking, and you see some of the water llamas, the bunnies, out in the water, kind of swimming back and forth. But you can tell that those rabbits don't want none of this.
I know you said there wasn't much in the way of trees on this side, so I'm gonna find like just a little scraggly tree, or maybe even just a branchy bush.
Yeah, so
I'm
that's
gonna,
what's all on this side ever are these branchy bushes. Thing like scrub brush that you might find in a desert.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's what
that'll
goes over here. More
that'll suit my
thorns and
purposes.
wood than anything else.
Well, that'll suit my. So I'm going to just hack off 4 foot long, straight-ish sections of branch. Okay.
All right, that
Um,
takes you a bit of time to find that. We're
Yeah.
talking like gnarl branches, but yeah, you do it, no problems.
I was thinking like during the 2 hours I was on duty. I was
Most
gonna do
definitely, that's doable.
this. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to cast Druidcraft on them, which is kind of like nature prestidigitation. So I
Okay.
can make them grow a little bit and things like that. So I'm going to turn them into 4 like staffs, And the purpose of this is so that when we're going across the river, we can tap the path ahead of us, make sure, okay, I'm going to be stepping on solid ground and not.
Basically, walking sticks, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
long walking.
So-
We can tap.
So my only question is like these branches you find, right? Everything here seems to be scaled up in size, right? So these little scrub brushes you find are you familiar with a plant they call devil's walking stick?
No.
Okay, so imagine a stunty plant like this big,
Yeah.
about as big around as your pinky, and it's
Yeah.
all thorns, right? That's what it is. It's they have much less polite names for this plant also.
Well, I could even just cut off like 4 thorns and do it to that.
So
what I mean?
my question was, when you're doing the Druidcraft, you have these thorny rods. Do you want them to be plain, or do you want them to have thorns? Because the thorns would enlarge with it, right? And just a safe place
Yeah.
to hold them.
No. I just want sticks.
Okay. So yeah, you come up with that. Not a problem.
I'm not trying to make weapons.
Just curious.
You know
All right.
what? Yeah,
So
that was good
it
to
takes
know.
you guys a little bit, but you do locate this this barge, and essentially what he's done is he has weighted down one side of it with rocks until it filled full of water, and then he sunk the other side. So it's a platform that is maybe 5 feet wide by 7 feet long,
Mm-hmm.
right? So barely rectangulish,
Right.
and it has a lip of maybe 2 inches that goes around the entire deal.
Is it above the river, or is
No,
it below the river?
he's sunk it.
How deep?
Maybe 3 feet.
Oh, so we're wading through 3 feet of water. Okay. Glad I got these sticks.
But between all of you, maybe with the gnome being a little less helpful because of how deep the water is, you manage to basically get it out. And once you do, it rights itself and it floats with no problem.
Oh, I see. Okay. I thought this was like a sunken platform we walk across.
No, it's a barge.
Barge.
Yeah, I got it now.
Yeah.
Okay,
So it
cool.
rights itself, it floats. And you can see the water sort of wicking away from the wood. It's obvious to any of you who know any sort of magic craft that he's done something to it, right? To make it water repellent, resistant.
Right.
And then there is a large 9-foot pole that is lying next to it. At the end of the 9-foot pole is a paddle. So if you imagine, it's almost like a pole, like you were going to use a gondola, but
Mhm.
there's also a paddle on the end of it because, from what you've been told, this thing is more than 9 feet deep once you're out towards the middle.
Right.
Okay, so I'm going to walk over to this pole and pick it up purposefully, and then I'm going to turn and hand it to DVJ.
And this is for
I
Rowing.
sigh. I sigh and I walk over. Here, I'll take it.
Oh, good.
Delicate hands.
Yeah, I noticed. All right. Move
All
'em or
right.
lose them. So,
So you guys load up your gear. It takes a little bit to get used to, right? As you sort of step out onto this
Mhm.
rocking platform at first. But you do manage to get yourselves and your gear onto it. Are you taking the wagon with you, or are you leaving it?
if it'll fit, we'll put
So-
it on.
You can put it on there, and then you guys are just kind of tightly bunched towards it, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, that's not a problem. So you get it and yourselves and your gear onto it. As you kind of are moving it on, you notice not only is your gear in there, but there are a couple of pounds of dried meat and some sort of rice-like grain in there.
Okay.
And you set off. If I could get Alex, you're gonna kind of control the poll, right?
Yeah.
All right. If you want to give me,
I'm guessing I'm the strongest one, but so,
Yeah, my strength was 10, which was another reason I did that. So.
if you want to
Yeah.
give me I guess an athletics or a strength check,
Athletics.
whichever is better for you.
Yep.
And then before you roll, if the other three of you could all give me a dex save. Your target number is only 12. If 2/3 of them make it, you'll roll with advantage, Alex.
Oh, okay.
As you're
So
essentially
they-
able to get
so-
them to pitch the weight to try and.
Oh, I see. So they're gonna roll first. Gotcha.
So they're gonna roll
I got a
first.
14.
So we got one.
Nope, I got a 7 total.
All right.
So no advantage. Okay.
Hold on. Nope. Durst hasn't rolled.
Oh, okay.
So, what Morse code of the flashlight? Could unmute yourself.
Semaphore?
11.
Okay, so no advantage.
Okay. Cool.
They're just not quite able to coordinate with you as far as moving their bodies go.
That's all right. I have a fair chance of this anyway. So let's see. Nice round 15. How about that?
Okay,
Was that
so
for you?
so 15 was the number to not really come
Go
off
under.
course, right?
Okay.
So you guys are halfway across the river at this point. It is slow going, right? You're 2 miles across, and it's been probably an hour worth of fighting this current, right? Because the river is running, and you guys are trying to cut across it. So at first you
Yeah.
lose a bit of ground, but then you're actually able to kind of invert rudder against it, right? Which kind of kicks your
Right.
butt end out, and you kind of fish back up towards the thing. So if you guys can all give me those exact rolls again, maybe a little more successful this time.
Now, as I recall, this river's like 4 miles wide or something.
Yeah.
Are you
Yeah, it's really
serious?
Did you roll a 1?
Yes.
17. 17.
Well, on the bright side, you don't wear a whole lot of armor.
No.
19.
Okay, so you're able to get them to move left and right, to rebalance this raft, this barge going across, and on one of those movements left, we see our mercantile friend slip off the edge and boosh into the water.
I'm not watching this. As soon as he leaves the boat, I think, oh, that's much better.
Thargus did? Thargus does?
Yes, Argus just fell off.
Nice job, guys.
Okay, so I'm going to quickly use Mage Hand and try and, maybe grab his collar.
Okay, so
Keep
you
him
do.
near the barge.
Well, Mage 10 can only move 10 pounds.
It's 10 pounds, right? But I mean, I'm only trying to keep him against the force of the river, so I don't know. I mean, it could be
Right,
more
right.
than
So
that. It
you're
could be less.
definitely no, you're definitely slowing his movement, right? So rather than being swept away.
By the way, if you needed my roll, it ended up with a 20. So
All right.
I could
So
shoot it with a crossbow.
I
That
can
helps.
shoot him with the crossbow. Fargus, do you want to give me
This.
an athletics roll here for the swimming?
Let's get all the low rolls out of
And
the
then
die.
the other three of you want to go ahead and give me a spot check.
oh sure. Oh yeah.
Perception.
There
That's what I was looking for.
I don't have anything that can help.
we go. 19 on that. On the spot. Or the perception.
9. I got a 9.
Come on, grab him before something eats him.
Yep. Yeah, I
21.
Well, I got the hand slowing.
always
20.
got high score in water polo. I rolled a total of 21.
Wow.
16. Yep.
All right. So Wolfram has your collar magically, right?
Whoa!
And he's kind of tugging you.
Okay.
And and when he grabs you, there's that initial like freak out moment where you're in the water, you're not sure what's here, something just grabs you, so you kind of move and you sputter for a second, but then you realize that you're being moved towards, or at least against the river current, right? You start hand over hand, like ripping for the boat, because even in this period of time, you've gotten a solid 10, 15 feet away from, like, you would be downriver right this second were it not for the mage hand. Those of you who rolled more than a 12 on your spot check, you see this long serpentine shadow moving through the water underneath Fargus.
Okay,
I'm
I'm
not
going to try
even
a
paying
crazy
attention to
idea. I don't know if you're going to allow this, Steve, but I'm going to try it. So I speak with animals. So I'm going to cast it on this serpent as
Oh
soon as
yeah.
it gets within range. And I'm going to tell him that he's poisonous. That Thargus is poisonous.
Okay,
Yuck.
so
Yuck.
I'll tell you what.
Nice.
Deception on a snake?
Give me a deception.
I don't know. he may not be deceiving him. I mean, we haven't really tasted him.
Right. Go ahead and give me that deception.
I don't know.
Unless the
That's something to be
serpent's
proud
like,
of. If
poison.
you charm a snake, literally. Eh?
Poison. That sounds delicious.
I got 12.
All right.
So I guess that would be insight on the snake's part.
Yeah. I mean, what's a snake's insight,
Snake
right?
insight.
Um,
I can see Wolfram on deck now. See, parcel tongue.
Yeah.
Parcel tongue.
So it only rolled a 10.
Snakes is so stupid.
Which is fine. So you see this this shape kind of break the water, and it's very
Loch Ness.
Yeah.
well, it's very serpentine, but not entirely snakish, if that makes sense. Imagine if you took a snake's body and then put an alligator head on the end of it, right? So it almost looks like a little water dragon.
Yeah.
But it's got a chitinous shell that runs down its back, and it's segmented. And so when you see it come up and it goes to bite Thargus, right? It's going to sort of come down and just crump on his head. You figure it could probably fit his upper half into its mouth. Fargus, you see this shadow fall over you and then beginning to feel water dripping down that's not part of your splashing. And as you look up, you see this thing open its mouth, and it doesn't have the fangs of a snake. It has developed like jagged jaw that you would more associate with a crocodile or an alligator. And it kind of recoils repugnantly at you, and you can see all of its chitinous scales on its back sort of flare up for a moment. And underneath these scales, you see what have to be hundreds of little baby versions of this thing.
Oh, nice.
And so it closes those down and it pulls itself like back into the water, kind of like a winding rope, just like, and then you guys see it swimming downriver, so with the current, very rapidly. It just that direction.
How far is he from the boat at this point?
Thargus, he's at this point putting his hand up onto the barge to be able to get up into it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'll crouch down, which isn't really that far from me, and I'll grab him by the wrist and kind of brace myself and haul him up.
I climb up in a panic, half sweating, half soaking wet. I'm like, oh my god! Did you guys see that? I'm
gonna take my
dying.
I'm gonna take my little mage hand and I'm gonna give him a little like light slap on the cheek.
What the?
Like idiot.
What? I wonder why it left
Again.
Yeah. Well, just kind
told
of.
it right.
Oh, nice.
I'm gonna need to break out my brown pants.
You already did.
Okay.
Maybe you should like sit down for the rest
I
of the
saw my I was so scared.
So it takes you guys another hour and a half to get across the river, and you do lose a bit of your north to south, right?
Yeah.
As even fighting it's still pushing you along. But eventually you make landfall, as it were. And you can see 100, 200 feet up the beach a large rock that has some piece of rope tied around it. So maybe that's where Junik had landed in the past. So you're not terribly far if that's the point he was talking about.
Well, since we're close to the shore, can I work my way up the coast to that rock just to?
Yeah. So between you guys can fight it, right? Using the poles that Wolfram made for you. Essentially, you guys get into really shallow water, and you pole boat up. You notice that in places your stick goes down and kind of suctions into silty mud rather than sandy bottom at points. Not quicksand, but enough that if you weren't proficient at being in the water, it would slow you down drastically.
Right.
So yeah, an exhausting half hour ensues to move this boat up that 200 feet to the rock.
Yep.
But you get there, and you are able to find an iron ring on the edge of this barge that he had used to secure it before, you think. And the rope is weather worn, but after some tugging from Dur and the rest of you to determine it still feels usable if you want to try and truss this rope, or if you don't wish to truss the rope, you do have some additional rope in your wheelbarrow. Yeah, no, we'll use some new rope. Okay. Secure the same rock.
Or both even.
Yeah.
Hold in new.
Sure. Any of you have anything that would relate to the construction of buildings or statues?
Maybe.
No. I got naturey stuff.
Naturey stuff. Go ahead and give me your naturey stuff roll.
Are they metal statues?
They are not statues. Dur, you got anything that relates to art?
Vocal performance. Closest I would come is a survivor.
No, I can get it on my naturey thing. I rolled a natural 1 plus 2 is 3.
History, religion, stuff like that.
Okay.
Tinker.
Yeah,
So,
no
okay.
problems. So you guys secure the rope. It does sort of fasten very neatly into crevices in this rock, and you're able to cinch it really tight. You know, being a gnome, you're not quite as adept at it as dwarves, but eyeballing it, you figure that this particular chunk of rock probably weighs in excess of 1,000 pounds.
Yeah.
Like it's not going anywhere, you don't think? And so you are on the edge of this this forest. It's probably only 8 o'clock in the morning, and for the most part, most of you feel like you've just ran a marathon.
Well, I guess the real work starts now, huh?
Well, we can maybe go in a short distance and have a brief respite.
Sure. Let's see where we are. Get a feel for the
rowing.
land. Huh?
I wasn't rowing, so I'm not that tired. I just checked a few spells, saved a life, tricked the snake, you know.
I really
the
thought
usual.
you said I was heroic.
Well, I was. Just in my own way.
In his own
I mean,
way.
I pretty much saved Thargus' life.
Sure. So I've got some forest images I'm gonna throw up here, and if you guys could just kind of imagine that this forest as it exists is a kind of a combination of these here.
Okay.
So let's see.
Look for a yellow bird.
Where is the third one? Okay, so we're gonna do it with 2 right this second because my third one disappeared. No. Because I can't spell. All right. So, as you guys are kind of staring or gazing into the beginnings of this forest, right? So, to give you an idea of the scale of the trees, the little figure you see there is 6 foot tall man.
Okay.
Right. So these things
Wow.
are massive.
Nice.
I mean, there's like 30 feet or more even between the roots. Shouldn't have any trouble getting the wagon through anyway.
Right. In places there are no issues with whatsoever, right? In others, some of the roots are more like this, where they're viney and kind of run across the ground here, right?
Yeah.
But that kind of gives you an idea of the immenseness, the sheer scale of what we're talking about here.
What about
there are
wildlife, birds, little small mammals?
So it is deathly quiet over here. For the first half hour that you guys were on this side, you know, as you sort of catch your breath and are not necessarily treading into the woods, you do begin to hear a few bird calls. Mostly screeching and that sort of like jungly sense of screeching, but also that predatory sort of owl noise or what you might hear a raptor crying as it sort of vibes for a field mouse.
Did anyone else notice that it's been some time since we left the river and we're only just now picking up signs of life? None were present on the far side. Perhaps there is something to what Junik was saying, and it affects not just people, but wildlife as well.
Oh, maybe so. There were some creatures over there, sir, but maybe they're resistant to it or something. Huh.
More life the further we go. It's interesting.
Yes. Well, if there's the same thing is true, if the same thing is true on the other gate, then maybe that will tell us something.
Oh, I hope we don't run into one of those.
What is what?
It was an alien.
Oh,
my desktop.
Bursta.
Yeah, it's my alien desktop. His birthday.
Yep, happy Bursta.
Yeah. Yeah, I just happen to love.
So let us press on. We should keep
all right.
eyes out for unusual wildlife. We've already seen some like that.
So you guys gather your stuff and maybe take a few minutes to wring out the bottom of your pants or shoes and socks if you wear those before you set about into this rather immense forest. Now, the canopy is dense but is broken enough that these rays, these pools of light, do shine all the way down to the forest floor.
Yeah.
And in those places, you do find bushes that grow. And they're not the stunty, runty crap from the other side. You find these sort of vibrant green, waxy leafed bushes, or you find these ivies that are climbing the trees. There are things that are, if not exactly similar to like roses or other briar flowers that are growing here. Some of them even seem like they hold small fruit about the size of a ping pong ball, if you will.
I'm gonna look for a colorful flower.
Okay.
Maybe a wide one, and pluck it and put it in my lapel.
Sure.
I kind of lean back to Wolfram a bit and I say, you seem to have a way with the plants. Maybe keep your eyes open for anything that might be edible, if you know what I'm saying. Never hurts to have a backup food source, if you know what I'm saying.
Some of my abilities are more magical than natural. I really do prefer the comforts of a city, but I will do my best.
No doubt, but
So the flower you find runs from a deep purple to a pink to a white on its petals as it sort of comes back to the I don't know what you call the center of the flower, the stamen area.
Yeah.
And it's got five petals that kind of fall open like a banana peel if you were to peel it, and it kind of looks like a little loppy star.
So kind of orchid like.
Yeah, very orchid. Well, orchidy, but with like I said, like banana peel petals.
Right.
But it does seem to be growing like an orchid does, right? So the roots are on the bark of the tree, not in soil.
Yeah.
I
kind of keep an eye on him to make sure he doesn't get like this big puff of poisonous spores into his nose.
Nope. It does have a very pleasant fragrance. One that probably, well, I'll leave it up to you, Wolfram. It either reminds you of fine wines or of the most expensive prostitute you've ever been with.
I'll go with the fine wines. I don't want to be distracted in that way while I'm out here.
So it has that kind of enticing, almost edible, fermented smell to it, but it is very pleasant. And you guys continue moving through as you move on. About an hour, 2 hours into your journey, you do come across those that big beast that was swimming across the river, if you recall. This guy right here. You see 2 or 3 of those wandering off to the side. They're slow, and they have this sort of groany pitch to them that sounds somewhere between a neigh and a moo. That kind of it reverberates throughout this area. But
Okay.
they don't seem to pay you any mind whatsoever.
Hmm.
All right.
Who is leading this expedition, and whoever it is, could you give me a survival roll unless you happen to be a ranger and have tracking?
It would probably be me. I was going to say I'm kind of like 10, 15 feet out in front anyway. You want a survival roll? No problem. Let's see. 10.
Okay, you're pretty much able to pick an easy-ish path through and amongst the roots, finding the widest sections where possible. And for the next 2 hours, you guys only actually have to stop and lift the wheelbarrow at 2 times. Otherwise, Wolfram has done a pretty good job of finding you a rather easy path.
Nice.
Keep an eye out for signs of these ruins as well. He said a day, so perhaps by dusk we might start seeing outposts.
Can everyone give me a perception roll, please?
Come on. 11.
And 18.
All right. We've got 8.
11.
Okay. Icarus.
Mhm.
There's a moment where as you're walking, it is still misting. And so there are these large ferns that grow in some of these sunlit spots. But a larger fern grows almost up against the trunks of these trees, sort of in the darkness, right? They don't require as much light as other plants. And so the others kind of have been brushing them out of the way as they've moved along, right? Because they're right at like phase height, majority of your party. You have been able to sort of walk underneath most of them. And in one instance, you notice this colorful caterpillar-y type thing sort of crawling along the frond of this fern.
Mhm.
And as it goes over your head, you're kind of watching it, and you look up, you have a moment, and then you keep watching it as though to not let on to what you just saw. 30 feet up in the air, on a large branch, is some sort of humanoid-ish thing.
Okay.
And it appears to be, if you're familiar with the Tarzan crouch, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of crouching in the tree, looking down at you. It did not seem to notice that you noticed it.
Okay.
It is shadowed enough that you can't make out if it's male or female, or even if it has a gender.
Right.
And the size of the tree is kind of throwing you for a loop as trying to figure out, is it 4 foot tall or is it 6 foot tall, or you
Right.
know it's taller than you are. You can guess that pretty quickly.
Okay. So I'll say, I'll kind of like grab my leg a little bit and I'll start rubbing it. It's like, Wolfram, hold on a sec. Got a little muscle cramp here. Come here. Can you hold this for me? And I kind of, make like I'm handing him my walking stick for a second. And as he comes over to sort of grab my walking stick, I lean and I say, don't look up, but we're being watched by someone. Kind of a humanoid looking thing up in the trees.
Friend or foe?
Yeah. Can't tell yet. It's just watching as far as I can, as far as I know.
So loudly, I'll say, "Hold up a moment. I gotta have a piss," and I'm gonna like go walking off into the brush, kind of out of sight.
Okay.
I'm gonna sneak around, stealth
Yeah,
around.
I'll continue to rub my leg for an extra minute or so just to continue the ruse, and then I'll turn to the other two and I'll talk loudly since I see what he's doing. I say, "So, how you two holding up? Quite a place, huh?"
This one does fair. The sheer size of nature about us is awe-inspiring, overwhelming. This one is not sure of the words, which for this one is unusual.
Yeah, see you are a man of interesting words.
While they're talking, I'll be sneaking around, so like I'm facing the back of this creature.
Yeah.
All right.
And I'll try to lean into them, and I'll like point some on the ground and say, and look at this plant over here. I've never seen anything quite like that one. And as I lean into his hand, I point, oh, right there. Don't look now, but we're being watched. Wolfram's going to check on it. Don't react.
Yeah, so I'm going to watch this creature for a few seconds, but I've got a plan ready. I want to try to gauge its intentions.
Well, at the moment, it seems to just be observing you. Go ahead and give me a perception check again. In fact, all of you can give me a perception check again.
Okay.
Wolfram, you can do yours with advantage.
I got an 8 this time.
Because my first roll was a 3. I got a 17.
All right.
12.
I'm too busy trying to look. I'm so busy trying to look nonchalant. I'm missing
11.
All right. So everyone can kind of turn and stretch and look and see this creature up in the tree.
How high up?
30 feet. Wolfram, you notice that there is more than one of them up there. There appear to be 2.
Can I see that they're armed? Do they seem to have any weapons?
You don't see anything in particular that looks like... So they're not carrying any long arms, right? No swords, no spears. If they have a weapon, it's small and on their person.
All right. Let's keep things interesting here. So I don't know their intentions. I don't necessarily want to hurt them, but I don't like being spied on. So what I'm going to do is I want to cast Grease on the branch he's standing on. And then I'm going to use my Legerdemain Mage Hand, which makes it invisible. And just a little push.
Okay. All right. So
my thinking is that if he falls at their feet, he's got to give up answers.
Right. So there's one directly. The one that you've been watching is almost directly above you guys, right? Or above them. You're kind of behind it now. The other one is just. So if this were a path going through the woods and this one's hanging on a bough here, the other one's just off this side of the road. I assume you're going for the one that's above your companions.
Yes.
Okay.
So Grease, push.
All right. Let's do a.
Even if it doesn't fall, it's probably going to flail and make noise. So then they got legitimate reason to look up, and that'll force. Yeah.
Sure. So you see it do exactly that. It slips and flails, and it calls out in this. You speak Elvish?
No. Nope.
All right, so it calls out a tongue that's not all too unfamiliar, but still very strange.
That we think is probably Elvish.
It sounds elvish-ish to you.
Okay.
And it slips and then catches itself sort of hanging one arm from the branch it had been standing on.
So
That's
it's
got
like
to
a
attract
elf monkey.
attention.
And yeah, so it's just sort of hanging there, and then you can see it start to sort of very proficiently scamper itself back up onto this ledge. But all of you can see the second one leap the 15 feet that is this particular portion of the path across and attempt to land on the same branch his
Greasy
buddy had
branch?
just fallen from.
Okay.
Yeah, so he lands and then both of his feet just kick out and he just and you can hear what has to be either a cry for help or a very fluid string of curses as it falls.
Can it be the Wilhelm scream?
As it falls to the ground with a sort of resounding dunk.
It couldn't have worked better,
Ooh.
so I'm pleased.
I look at this point. They know we know. So I look up and say, "Hello, how are you? We're
Good of you to drop in.
we're new around here." I guess I should probably check on his friend.
Yeah,
I'm gonna go over and take a look.
I'm moving over towards the one that hit the ground.
Yeah, me too.
All right. This is not the world's best image to share here.
Okay.
But we're gonna see if it'll work anyway.
I'll
So
come out
what
of the
you
woods
see
to
is
button up.
that.
Okay.
So she is a little tusky and not as green as that picture makes her, right? She's more brown with a greenish tint to her. Very very lithe features rather than bulk. And she immediately like sort of curls with one hand on the ground and the other one grabs a small sword or large knife from her hip. And she is postured like a lineman in football might, right? And that three-point stance with that knife. And behind her, you just sort of stuck, and another what you're assuming to be her twin drops behind her and is standing there. Similarly, she has a hand out over her sister, presumably, and a short sword or a short sword or a long knife in her hand as well.
Are their weapons made out of metal, or are they bone, or are they stone? I mean, what do they look to be made
So
of?
it's this really strange juxtaposition. The piece in her hand, the hilt, appears to be a very intricately worked leather wrapped metal hilt. The piece coming out of it appears to be a sharpened piece of bone with stone serration to it.
Okay. You mean like chips of obsidian or something?
It doesn't appear to be obsidian. It looks the coloration is more like amethyst, but yes, the same idea.
Okay.
Right?
Nice.
She's got serration sort of bound and tarred and set to this blade.
They're about 4 feet tall.
They are both about 3.5, 4 feet tall.
All right. Well, I'm gonna put it in my hands and I say, And I give him a smile. We don't mean you any harm. Are you injured? Are you? Shit. And I'll kind of take a couple of steps toward them with my hands up, and kind of I'm probably closest to their height anyway. So
Okay.
maybe
The one on the ground is in a 3-point stance stands up now, and she winces as she does, and you can see that there's a large piece of branch. Like she's got a very large, like maybe like a 3-inch long, 1-inch wide splinter slammed into her hip. And so she winces as she stands, and the other one kind of moves in front of her. And in this tongue you're not familiar with, she waggles this knife in your face. She's like, "Batita, mada."
Yes. So I'm gonna kind of approach, and I have my hand up, and I'm gonna say, help, and I kind of rub one hand on top of the other, to show kind of a caress, help.
She looks at you and again says something, still waggling this this knife. Watch it.
I'll try speaking in Gnomish. Maybe they know something of that. So Erigagan, Yuve, and I'll make the same motion, and then I'll try Dwarven, Durak the wound
So she doesn't seem to understand either of those. Although you can see a bit of curiosity behind her eyes, like these are perhaps sounds she's never heard.
All right, I'm gonna sit down on the ground. So I kind of sit down across from them, and no weapons out, and I'm gonna take out I know what I'll do. I take out a stick. I just pick up a stick off the ground, and I break it gently. Not trying to look menacing, like but just no, just real gently. And then I'm gonna use the cantrip mending, and I move my hand across it, and the stick just sort of weaves back together and
I'd like to
again.
I see what he's doing. So to help him, I'm just going to help you. So I sit beside him, and I'm going to cast Minor Illusion. So I'm going to make basically a picture, an image of him pulling the thorn out of that creature.
Oh yeah. I nod and I gesture with my hands open.
So this image we get, because Minor Illusion doesn't move, right? So it's this great sort of like slideshow of here's a picture, here's a picture, here's a picture.
Sure.
And they seem to be, so magic doesn't scare them, right? Like maybe they're aware of magic. But she does indicate a couple times towards both of you. And then she starts looking around at Thargus and at Dur. And there's almost a slight recognition of something when she looks at Dur. It's not like she's familiar with him or anything like that, but she lingers on him for a moment, and then she, without like jiggling the knife at him, she kind of lowers it, and in this tongue again, she's like, Tepani?
Quiet, small one. Peace. And that's in Elvish.
So she struggles for a second. And she repeats back, but what you get instead of quiet, small one piece, what she repeats back comes out more like tiny calm. And it's questioning, but you're not sure if she's asking you a question or if she's struggling with what she's trying to see. You know what I mean? Like she's forcing the. Meanwhile, her sister is writhing in pain on the ground.
Yeah.
And you see the little girl on the ground, and you see her reach down, and she pulls this like the leather skirt. It's more than the loincloth, but less than anything more than that, right? And you see she pulls it to the side, and she does have this sort of milky white blood running out of her. And she grabs that splinter like she's about to like just rip it out of herself.
I hold up my hand and go, no.
Well, luckily, no is one of those words that like transcends so many languages.
Generally speaking, yeah. Well, I'm shaking my head and putting my hand up, you know.
So she stops, and her sister pats her on the head, and she says something to her.
Yes.
And again, she looks at Dur, and she points over, and for the first time you see that on her left arm is a bracelet made up of various vertebrae, right? That's what they are. But each one of them has been very intricately worked, so they are carved to look like faces, similar but older to hers. So she points over at the gnome over Icarus, and she looks back at her, and she realizes that the knife is still, I mean, it's in her dominant hand, assuming, but it's still pointed towards her, and so she switches that, so the knife is pointed towards the gnome, who's close to her, and she looks at you, and she fumbles through this long sentence, and you can tell she's doing that thing where you speak slower and louder to someone who doesn't understand you. But what you get out of it is help. No other side spirit. And she points at Icarus when she says help, and kind of down at her sister, and then towards the sun, that's the word for it, the big ball of fire in the sky, when she says no other side spirit.
Do you translate? I don't speak Elvish, so do you
I
translate this?
translate. I'll translate that.
I say, is she not asking not to die?
So you can see a growing
I don't
puddle.
think so. I
Right.
think
Stephen?
she doesn't want another god's magic being used.
Right. Stephen.
Yeah.
I'll unfasten my sword belt. Let the sword drop.
Okay.
Pull off the side. Pull off the purse pouch, whatever you want to call it, that I constantly carry. But when I pull it off, I remove the healer's kit that's in there. Okay. So now I've still got a knife on me, but that it's staying sheathed.
Okay.
And what I'm going to try and say here at this point, or what I will say is, no magic, herbs.
Um. So she looks at you and looks at the healer's kit and repeats back what kind of comes out garden and shakes her head sadly, and then she points at Icarus and she says this term that comes across like to use a big word, cosmic makeup, right?
Uh-huh.
That's the sense you get with it. When she points at Icarus, right? She even motions like the breaking of the stick, right?
Uh-huh.
And she basically says, no cosmic makeup. And then she kind of like questions how, and then she bends down to pick up her sister.
No. Pointing at myself. I help.
All right. So she looks at her sister. She looks at the pile of white milky substance on the ground, and she looks back. She looks back at Icarus, and she repeats that same sentence. Icarus. Like she picks up the stick that you mended, and she holds it in front of you.
Yeah.
And then she looks at Dur, and no cosmic makeup. How? And she breaks the stick again, and she thrusts it into your hands. And then she looks at Dur and goes, "Carry," and she points at her sister.
If I'm translating both sides of the conversation as we speak. If this one understands correctly, she is afraid that your magic would be harmful because of the dissimilarity between them and us. But she is asking that we aid them.
All right,
Perhaps you could splint the stick or bandage the stick as a demonstration.
No. Hold on. I'm gonna take on a little small working knife that I have. Not the one with the fire cast on it. I want to show that to them. And I'm gonna cut myself. I'm gonna show my arm, show that it's clean, and I'm gonna wince and I'm gonna give myself a good little cut where there's a bead of blood, bit runs down my hand, like maybe a hit point's worth or whatever, and I say, see, and then I'll use a cure wounds, and I'll put my hand over it, and actually,
I don't think she wants that. I think that's what she's afraid of.
Well, we'll find out in a sec.
So
I show
that.
And so I show it, and then I wipe off the excess blood, and I show, and then I gesture to her.
Right. So she looks at you and she starts like this at you. No, she cosmic makeup, and she grabs you and she tugs you towards her sister.
Oh, okay.
And then she stops, and almost like she's trying to figure things out, and she cuts her own hand, right, with her knife, just real quick.
Yep.
And then she thrusts it out in front of you, and it indicates it. And she looks over at Dur.
I'm gonna gently reach out for the hand.
She says, "Take?" Question mark. And so she begins this white milky substance running down the palm of her hand.
I kind of waver off and no, and I'm gonna try to go over to her sister.
Yeah, she is all about that.
Okay, I go over there, and I sit down, and I'm gonna look at the leg, and I'm gonna extract the splinter.
Okay. So
okay.
the splinter went in almost not to the side of her hip, but the way she fell, it's on the back side of her leg, and it's coming through under her groin.
Okay.
And there is a lot of blood coming out of that, and she appears to start being pretty faint.
All right. In that case, I'm gonna call. Let's see, who's she least afraid of besides. Well, I guess. Well, she's been talking to Dora, so I'll just gesture for Dora to come over. Dora, come here, quick.
Okay, carrying the healer's kit, but not much else. I'll walk over to him.
Yeah, I say, you clearly know a little bit about medicine here. She's gonna bleed out real fast if I don't heal it immediately. So you're gonna have to take out the stick while I do the spell. So I get the spell ready. I prepare my hands. I draw them apart so there's a little bit of light energy. It's like, do it now.
Okay. One hand on the girl's forehead. Quiet, and halfway through the second quiet, I jerk it out quick.
She screams, and you can hear birds bust from the trees as she cries out.
My hands immediately go to her leg, and I cast a cure wounds.
Okay.
And she looks. I mean, this is a pretty severe wound, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll do a second level.
Okay.
Yeah.
So as you're casting this spell, the first thing that races into your mind once you've gotten past the saving this little girl's life is that, okay, yeah, they didn't lie to you. Your connection to the God of the Forge is still good here.
Good to know.
But there is something. So, if your spell were to heal and you could watch it as it sort of knits all the stuff back together, right?
Right.
And normally when you're healing someone, it does this sort of left over right, left over right, left over right, left over right type of thing as it knits.
Right.
This one goes left over right, center, center, left over right, center, center, left over right, center, center.
Okay.
So there's something different.
Okay.
But more complex than the amount of energy you had to exhaust into this made it a more complex healing spell than you are used to casting.
Okay.
It didn't drain you any further, but it took more. Like you had to open yourself wider to the channel of divinity to be able to accomplish it.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, I kind of
also she passes out.
I kind of process that, keep it in the back of my mind, just to think about later, and I concentrate on making sure that the wound closes and she doesn't die.
Well, after a few short seconds, the wound closes. She is left with a bit of a scar.
Yeah, well.
The puncture itself actually kind of looks like a 3-leaf clover. The scar does. A sort of playing card spade sort of, or not spade, club sort of shape.
Club, yep.
And you see her sister when the scream like rips out, and then the one on the ground passes out. The other one drops to her knees and puts her head onto her sister's chest. And after a few seconds, she kind of nods, and you can see her head sort of rising and falling as her sister breathes. The breathing is still very heavy.
Yeah.
But the one who is still conscious, she she stands up and she has tears in her eyes, and she nods and says something that is probably unmistakably thank you, and I'm pretty sure all of you could interpret that. And she grabs your arm, your little gnomish arm, and she hugs it. Not hugs you. She hugs your arm. And in turn, unless you guys refuse her, she walks to each of you and hugs your arm.
Yeah, I accept and
it's always the arm that would be opposite your weapon.
Okay.
Like she doesn't hug your sword arm.
Right. When she's done her thanks, I wait till there's a kind of a pause, and I say, and I gesture to myself, Icarus, and then I gesture to her in this sort of universal sign of let's exchange names here.
Okay. So she pauses for a second, and then she points at herself and her sister.
Yeah.
Niwam.
Mywam. So we're just not sure if that means if that's a species or a name.
Yeah, that's what I was after. Question, just because my mind is gone out the window at some point. I'm half elven. Icarus is a gnome.
Correct.
The other two are
human.
Human.
All right, but they're both human.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I was looking for. So, turning to the girl, I'll point at Icarus and go, and in Elvish, gnome, Icarus. Pointing at myself, I will say, because I'm not going to go that complicated, elf, der. And then point at each of the others and start with human and give a name. Human and give a name. Then point at her and go.
Okay. So she puzzles at it for a second. I gotta look up. So in a moment of maybe insight or mind blowing.
Yeah.
So the Elvish word for elf, right? It is we're going to use Kenya, right? That's the Elvish word for elf. So when you say that, she looks at you and then she points at herself and she says, Kenya Elinian, and then repeats her the name she gave you earlier, pointing at her and her sister both. How did you spell that word earlier, Alex?
Mywam.
Okay.
I just
All right. I didn't know if you heard N or M. That was all.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, she goes through that long spill.
Okay.
But still indicates that the name for her and her sister is Mywam.
Perhaps twins share a name in this world, in their culture, or maybe they're only born as twins. Who knows?
This one questions why she refers to herself as Elven.
Well, the Kenya Elenian is one word as far as you can tell, but
yeah. Oh.
Elven Maid?
The language is similar.
Elven Maid? And going back, but flipping the syntax a little bit in Elvish. Made by elf?
So it's almost like you're running into that problem of calling a Coke a Coke or a pop or a soda, right?
Right.
And so she grasps what you're saying as far as the elf part of it goes.
Right.
And she apparently can also note the similarity in what you're calling yourself and what she's calling herself. But beyond that, there's not a ton of similarity between the two of you.
Yeah, syntax and context is going to drive us nuts.
So, but she does she does walk over, and as far up as she can reach to your chest, she does pat each of you and try and call you by name. She's at least grasped that
individual names.
Yeah, gnome and human is not their names. She gets that it's Thargus and Wolfram and Icarus and Dur. But she does again indicate to her sister and says her word for carry, and then she reaches down and scoops her sister, and she starts jogging with her sister. Her sister's knife is still laying on the ground, but she doesn't seem to care about that at the moment. So she grabs her sister and she starts jogging up this path.
Okay, I'm picking up both the splinter I pulled out of the wounded one. I'm going to wrap it and store it back in my pouch along with the medicine kit. I'll tuck the knife into my belt.
As you do
so,
that knife is extremely sharp.
Well, crutch, yeah, obsidian will take a point sharper than a surgeon's scalpel.
Yeah, it's not. It's obsidian.
No, I know.
But
I'm just saying the obsidian blade is actually sharper than a scalpel.
Oh yeah.
It just loses an edge faster than steel does.
Well.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. So you notice that she does manage to make, even carrying her sister is making a pretty good clip through here.
Is she going in the general direction that we were going? Or?
She is. She is running up, and after a few seconds, you stop hearing the sort of crush of leaves and start hearing the plop 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 of feet onto stone.
Okay.
As she's jogging.
She didn't give me a chance. Well,
yeah. I guess,
so we're bringing the cart behind us and following.
Yeah. Guess we'll move on.
Okay.
Yeah. Never hurts to make a little goodwill when we can, right?
So you guys follow her. You have to move a little quicker than maybe you guys were traveling to begin with to keep up with her. She is definitely moving with a purpose at this point. But she
we're
eventually.
We're not gonna risk injury or damage to the cart. You know, if we.
No.
Yeah.
She's not gonna outpace you that badly.
Yeah.
But
if
she
we
does eventually run up to the edge of a village, and as she goes running up there, she starts calling out, and you see a lady come out of one of these buildings who looks a lot like this. And she responds to the girl. She sees you guys in the distance, and she calls, and a couple of other individuals come out and join her. This guy.
So these people are taller than they are?
Yes. These guys are 6 foot, 6'4".
Oh. Yikes. so with these kids then we were dealing with, or
You get that impression because the
Okay.
woman stops. She kneels and kind of wipes away the tears that are running down this little girl's face. This guy comes out. He kneels. He hugs her, hugs the little girl. She hugs his arm. This time though, you'll notice that she hugs what would be his sword arm.
Yeah.
And he tussles her hair. He wipes a tear from her cheek. He puts his hand on the chest of the one who's now sort of laid very gently in a flower bed amongst this stone. And apparently content with what he feels there, he stands up and he starts walking toward you guys.
Oh, here we go.
That's the dead.
Yeah. That's,
Um,
so we're standing there trying to look non-threatening as possible.
but he comes up and he stops maybe 10 feet from you. And he eyes you all up and down. And then he kind of his gaze sort of jumps from Dur to Wolfram to Thargus, constantly skipping Icarus. And in his tongue, what you can make out, Dur, is who speaks.
Speaks.
Speaks, as in
Speaks. Oh.
I'm going to point at Icarus, although he keeps avoiding him, and say, Chief, and then words, and tap myself on the chest.
Okay. So he looks at you quizzically for a moment and then nods, and he takes a sort of intentional, a very purposeful stride towards Icarus. And he pulls this long sword from his side, and it makes this stone on stone scraping sound as it comes out, that sort of.
Yep. I'll
he
just
takes another stride toward Icarus.
All right. I'm standing my ground. I am not drawing a weapon, not defending myself yet.
And he looks over at you, Dur, and he says this long sentence, but what you get out of it is speak words. And then he stops. He kneels in front of Icarus.
Uh-huh.
He takes this. I mean, it is beautifully crafted out of stone.
Yep.
There's bone inlay into it, and again, it has some of this amethyst on there in places. He puts his boot onto the blade of it, and he snaps his sword. And then lays the two broken pieces in front of Icarus.
Oh, okay. Oh, this is dicey. Okay.
I know it.
Yeah. So I kind of go to one knee in front of to the weapon, rub my hands.
So as you go to kneel, you feel this large finger touch you underneath your chin.
Okay.
Right, like this.
Yeah.
And you can feel this thick pointed fingernail, but it lays flat. It doesn't like gig you.
Yeah.
And you feel him pulling you back upright.
Okay. So.
And then once he has like you at your standing height.
Yeah.
He then puts his hand onto his knee, lowers his head, and then you can see like the four other people who have come out to watch what's going on all do the exact same thing.
Huh. Okay.
He turns to you, Dur.
Mm-hmm.
And again, this long sentence, but what you get out of it is cosmic makeup,
Right.
no spirit, other side, offspring. Thank you.
At a best guess, this one assumes he's thanking you for healing his daughter and not letting her pass to the other side.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Although-
Yeah.
So say something and let me translate.
Yeah. Tell him.
Speak to him.
Yeah. I say. Well, please rise.
And I simply use the one word, rise.
Yeah.
Okay. So he stands up, and as he does, he looks over you guys again.
I say, we're travelers from a distant land. We seek friends in this new land.
Hand gesture, including all four of us. Travelers, and then gesturing at him and his family group back there to include them all, and then a hand wave back and forth. Friends.
So when you say travelers, he looks kind of weary, right? And the travelers that he gives you back comes out more like wanderer, right? And so it's wanderer question mark.
Right.
And then he gestures to the people behind him, and you get clan / family,
Mhm.
but it almost comes out like brood or unit, right? Rather than necessarily family.
Ooh.
And then so he gestures towards all of you, and company is the word you get. Alex says he's not part of his company. He's out of here. And as he's waiting for you to respond, he walks over and he puts his hand onto the shoulder of Wolfram, right? So Wolfram, are you right-handed or left-handed?
I'm right-handed.
All right, so your sword would be on your left then?
Mhm.
So he puts his hand onto your left shoulder, and then he kind of pulls your non-sword arm against him. And you realize that the way he's standing, he's not preventing you from getting to your weapon, but he's also in this greeting not taking up your dominant arm, right? So he's kind of putting himself in a position that if you wanted to shank him.
I got it. So I'm going to I don't really understand what he's doing. I mean, I do more than Wolfram does. So I'm going to pull out a ration. I'm going to take a bite, and then I'm going to offer it to him.
Okay. So he looks at it, he sniffs it, he takes a bite. He reaches into a leather pouch on his side, and he pulls out this wrapped leaf. It's got sort of twine holding it together, and he offers it to you.
All right, so I'm going to assume it's food, and I'm going to sample it.
Yeah, so it's some sort of minced plant and meat that is heavily spiced, maybe like a sort of saffrony and garlic flavor. Like it's very heavy spiced.
Okay, so I'll sample it, and then I will pass it back to him and smile and hope that's universal to his people.
Okay. So he then, assuming this is part of the custom, goes to each person in turn, and he again greets you in such a way that he pulls your non-sword arm to his chest and he holds your shoulder, and then he offers you part of his food.
Okay. When he grabs my non-dominant arm and hugs it, as soon as he releases, I'm going to extend my dominant, the sword arm, empty with the hand open towards him. But it's going to be a full extension of the arm, not just sticking my hand out there.
Right. So he, at first, he goes to put the food into your hand.
It's turned sideways.
Right. So and then he rethinks it, and then he holds his hand like mirroring yours.
All right, and then the stereotypical warrior's grip.
Right, half up the arm.
Half up the arm.
Right, making sure there's no dagger in your sleeve. Gotcha.
Even though he's not wearing one, and I am. But
right
now the only difference is I've got gloves on. Mine's not bare.
Right. Well, I mean, his in the picture is not. He's actually gauntleted from his elbow down.
Right.
But so he does.
It's going to be a dominant arm grip in both cases.
That's fine. That is fine. So he does it and then kind of nods, and so in turn, when he goes to DBJ, he does his little like army hug thing, and then he steps back and very stiffly puts his hand out. And then if you reciprocate, he'll grab and shake, and then he still offers you some of his food because apparently you guys have the most complicated greeting of all time.
Yeah.
Well, in both cases, one is sharing food and one is proving that I'm not going to hurt him. So that's a reason for those kinds of greetings.
It could have been worse. Could have given him a hand job.
Right. So you hear the lady.
Wet willy time. What will he die?
You hear the lady call out from behind him. You hear essentially what comes out to Tosk. You're assuming maybe that's his name. Come. And you can see the other girl starting to awaken. The woman comes out also, and she goes through the whole thing all over again, right? She walks up to each individually, and awkwardly for some of you, not so awkwardly for others, she pulls your arm against her chest, and kind of hugging that arm, and then again, like having seen Tosk do this, she steps back, and then
is she armed?
Yes, she is.
Okay. Well, in that case, then I'll do the same handshake.
I was gonna say it's probably most awkward for Icarus because if she's like 6 feet tall, then she's hugging my arm like up, like I'm reaching up.
Well, no, she kneels. She kneels to you.
Okay.
I'm gonna say either that or she's pressing it in a very awkward place.
Right.
she kneels to you because if she didn't, so. They do have some. When you guys are looking at them, it's all leathers, right? But it's soft leather and hard leather, sort of stacked. There is like her elbow pauldron. I'm not pauldron's on your shoulder, but her elbow piece is that chitin like you saw on the river snake, right? Don't die. But all their weapons are stone and bone. They do have the occasional piece of metal, but it makes no sense. Like she has 2 lengths of chain hanging from a leather belt, like it's an ornament. Not functional, but like it's an ornament. Their ears are long and pointed, and they are, depending on what light you catch them in, anywhere from a light shade of blue to a light shade of green, and it just kind of but when she smiles, she is a little tusky, with some very pronounced fangs, so like almost like top tusks and bottom tusks, or what's it, bottom tusks and top tusks, kind of like you saw with the little girls, but she likewise will introduce herself. The guy's name is Tosk. And her name is up here somewhere. Whatever. I can't find it. So her name will be Chur. Chur. And she takes you, like, whoever she greets last, we'll say it's Wolfram. When you do the handshake, she kind of tugs you along, Wolfram, kind of ushering you into this small village.
Yeah, I'll go along.
Okay, so you walk in, and the cobblestone road does lead into here, and there are these buildings that are appropriately sized for them, right? If 6'4", 6'6" is the average height for these guys, instead of a 1-story being the typical 10 feet, maybe a 1-story is like 13 feet, right? So there's 1- and 2-story buildings here, with windows, and they're stonework, and then covered in moss or grass or other plant life, right? So it kind of almost looks like a stone hobbit hole, right? So the buildings are kind of mounds with a little bit of definition to them. But one of the things that immediately catches all of your attention is there is not a building standing in here that does not have cracks in it, scorch marks, or missing pieces. The road at one point towards the center of town is obliterated, right? It is just gone. And you can tell that because there's a crater almost. And kind of like lapping out from the crater are these scorch marks. Now, it has since been turned into a garden with a small pond in the middle of it. And there are probably at least 20 or 30 of these individuals that you can see, all variously looking like the pictures I've shown you. It seems to be an even mixture of men and women. There do seem to be other children here. And they seem to be more or less making a life here. There are gardens in front of most of the homes that are growing carrots, potatoes, those type of things.
Yeah.
There are you see a couple of those elk-like creatures hung up on drying racks where they've been caught and skinned, and
Nice.
At least a couple of these buildings have chimneys with smoke coming out of them. And as you guys kind of make it into the center of town, other of these individuals start coming out, and they're bringing like these large woven baskets that have pillows, for lack of better terminology, sort of shoved into them. And they sort of sit them down near this center garden, and then indicate for you to sit into them, right? And and Tosk and Chur, they sit with you. The 2 young girls kind of right with them. One is still groggy from maybe exertion and pain, but she's there. And over time, over the next little bit, they communicate to you in this really broken dialect of Elvish through Dur, and they will bring out food and a wine. It's got a very banana-y sort of flavor to it. Like if you took bananas and coconuts and turned it into a wine, that's kind of what this tastes like.
Oh, cool. I'm sorry, I'm laughing. It looks like your dad's whispering to DBJ at the moment.
It does. Every time he turns his head, DJ leaned in, and my dad turned to talk to my sister, so it's right in here. But
Sorry. It's distracting.
They will also bring like buckets of water out.
Okay.
And the women will actually start to they keep saying these words that none of you are certain about. The best term that Dirk can come up with is hides.
Okay.
At first, until they start tugging on your like boots and
Clothes.
things.
Oh, I see. Clothes. Yeah.
And if you relinquish your boots to them, they don't take them out of your sight. They just pull them off and they start carving out the mud and wiping them down. And in a couple of cases, they turn upside down and they beat them. You see these like little creepy crawlies come out of them that you didn't even know had gotten into your shoes. But yeah, they will sit there and entertain you and in his broken language. Toss kind of loses patience with it. Maybe halfway into it, it's frustrating for him to not be able to speak. But Chur kind of sticks with it, and so I don't know how long you guys are planning on hanging out, but she will talk to you and try and grasp Elvish, or even if you start turning it over to some common words.
Yeah, I'm going to try to pick up their language as best, as best I can. Try to sort of grasp some of the words here and there.
So some of the things that like she points at first, like all of your armor, the blade on Wolfram's sword, so on and so forth. She points at those, and she keeps calling it Karyu, like over and over. It does not matter whether she's talking about your armor or the weapon. But those are the parts she refers to. And so at first, you guys aren't sure if she's referring to metal or kind of armaments, right? Like
right.
armor and weapons. And even as she kind of goes through it, what you derive from swapping some common and some Elvish and some of their terms is that it's the same word, right?
Right.
That weapon, war, death, metal, all kind of have the exact same root, if nothing else.
Right.
But as you guys talk, she does try and pick up some of the words. Well, from one of the things that you notice is that that charm apparently spans languages. And so a couple of these lighter blue skinned, and they're not unattractive.
Oh no, I've seen Avatar.
Creatures, they don't have tails. They come and they sit down next to you, and it's kind of that not Valley Girl, but they're not dumb, but they're not participating in the learning as much as Chur is, but they do repeat back certain words, especially if they think those words pertain to you, right?
Yeah, I also know that this kind of service would cost you a pretty penny in some cities, so I'm just going to go along with it.
So the one thing I will ask is, after about your second glass of this wine, you guys realize it has a pretty heavy alcohol content to it.
Yeah, slow right down on that.
Okay. So Chur notices, and she looks at you, Icarus, and then points at Wolfram, who's slowing down, and then she points at her glass and not good.
I nod. I say, very good. And I kind of raise the glass and take another sip. I say,
almost too good.
Yeah, I say, too much, and then I kind of tap my forehead. I kind of gesture around to us as a group. I say, we're tired, and I kind of put my, kind of lean, put my face on my hands, kind of thing. Tired.
She repeats back,
journey.
Tired.
It's been a long journey. Long journey.
Right. So again, with that journey thing, she looks at you, Dur, and she repeats back the word wanderer, question mark. And then she kind of steps over it, and she asks for clarification for tired. And so what she posits to you is rest, question mark, sleep, question mark.
Both exclamation point.
Okay, so once she sort of gets confirmation from either, from any of you, she kind of snaps her fingers at one of the women that are hanging around Wolfram, and she says something to them, and they go over to one of these buildings, and eventually you see 3 small children come out of it. They are carrying some possessions. They go across the street into another building. And then she comes back and she has this conversation with Chur. And at the end of it, Chur looks up towards the sky. You can see she's kind of measuring sunlight. And then she points at the building, gestures to all of you.
Mm-hmm.
And then to Dur, she says, rest now, food later, sleep even later, question mark.
I look at Dur, I say, well, if I get what she's saying, that sounds pretty good to me. It'll build good relations with them and give us a chance to catch our breath and maybe get better information. Maybe we can even learn a bit about our path ahead. You don't have to tell them all that, just, thank you would be nice. Just thanks. Yeah.
This one agrees, but though they appear friendly, they are still unknown. This one recommends watches.
Not a bad idea. Not a bad idea. Just let's not make it obvious that we're keeping watch. They might think we don't trust them. But no, they seem pretty honorable for the most part. But yeah, you're right. We don't know their customs. For all we know, they eat friends and are kind enemies. So let's be careful.
All right. So
yeah,
they basically turn this building over to you, right? When you go into it, it does seem to be some sort of family dwelling, right? There are 3 rooms inside, 2 medium-sized rooms, and 1 large room. In that large room, there's a fire pit. There are more of these sort of basket chairs. There is on the floor is a rug that has a crude series of circles drawn onto it and some stone pieces next to it and a couple of what you think are dice.
Mm-hmm.
And then the rooms themselves, the 2 smaller rooms, have 3 or 4 large of these sort of chairs in them, beds.
Mm.
And when you guys go inside, Chur kind of reaches up and she pulls a string, and this large hide falls in front of the door. There is light coming through 1 window and through a
smoke hole.
A smoke hole.
Mm-hmm.
And you can hear goings on in the village, but it doesn't seem like a whole lot of conversation. It seems more like people have gone back to weeding gardens and pulling tubers out of the ground or skinning animals.
Hey, Dur, if you got a minute, when we, as we're resting, I'd like to maybe compare notes about the language. Maybe we can get a better handle on translations and so forth. And Yeah. Better we can speak to them, the less chance there's of a terrible misunderstanding, if you know what I mean.
This one agrees.
Food? Question mark. Oh crap.
No
Now, are
kill
they
eye.
asking, do we want to eat, or are they telling us that they have a book called How to Serve Mankind?
Yeah,
Right.
to serve man. Yeah.
Awesome. So I think we're gonna stop here.
Yeah.
It's like 11:15. That makes it like after midnight Rob's time.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you guys, Rob, you particularly, is there any sneaky that you want to do during your nap time?
No, not really. The sneaky stuff I played is more subtle. It's more like trying to get a read on these people, right? If you know you can take advantage better, that kind of thing.
Also, Icarus, the broken sword was given to you.
Oh, okay. Well, in that case, while we're there, I will I'll mend it.
The old mending spell.
Yeah, it would be a great sword for you.
Yeah.
I mean, well, it would be a great sword. It might not be ideal, but it's.
I know what you meant. Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be great.
There's no signs. What I'm trying to determine is this like the ruins they're squatting in, or is this their village they built, kind of thing?
Yes.
So interesting, right? The read you kind of get is they've been here for a long time, both the ruins and this particular inhabitants. Nothing says it's not theirs. I mean, the buildings are all made out of stone. All of their handiwork is stone.
Yeah, they could be the ancestors of the survivors of whatever happened here. I mean,
but the ruins we're looking for, this is not them. That's really
no. I know. But the damage is very old, though, right?
Yeah, the damage is hundreds of years old.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So
this place with all these with at least one portal, and now we know there are two. They could have visitors that have come here, hundreds or even thousands of years ago.
Yeah, from anywhere,
right?
And that could explain the similarities to Elven and other languages. Like the language, the languages could have easily gotten. Well, look at American. It's made up out of dozens of different languages that have all been smashed together and put in a blender and made. So
unless this place makes people go native, kind of. If you don't leave, you end up staying for a very, very long time.
Kind of a continuation of that effect from Postgate.
Yeah, are part of these people the missing people from Postgate?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, you do know that one of the very first crews that came over was between 20 and 40 people. None of them were heard from again.
Which was about how long ago?
50 years ago.
I think we would have heard. We would have known if they were elves, though, wouldn't they? This doesn't. Based on what I know about the elves of this world, or the other world, it doesn't seem like this would be their kind of thing.
Well, also, these people look like very similar, right? Like they're one people. So unless this is like the equivalent of the Donner family.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I don't think that they're refugees. They're not refugees, but anyone who's come over from our side, at least.
Castaway survivors.